Great. So, my name's Joe. I run a video production company based here in Brighton. We've been running about 7 years, and we conducted our first live stream back in 2010 for Sony. Going to kind of talk to you today a little bit about best practice. Had some really interesting kind of case studies and examples from the guys at Picture House and Pixel Palace. I thought we'd talk a little bit more about the sort of practicalities and some best practice if you're looking to live stream. Just a bit about us. We work with all kinds of clients, the big corporates, some wonderful charities, and then some great arts organizations like South Bank and Brighton Festival, covering all kinds of different live streams, which we can talk about a few examples, product launches, that sort of thing. Thought I'd start as well with a bit of a case study. This is I think it's the Cape Town Stadium for the South African World Cup. One of the first live streams we covered was a partnership announcement for Sony and FIFA. I don't know if anyone's a football fan, but they covered the 2010 World Cup using 3D cameras, which was a first. We came to the press announcement. There was about 25 camera teams, broadcast trucks, satellite trucks, and it was us with a laptop and an HD camera. We were hired by Sony to get the stream to 200 specific viewers all around Asia, specific business partners that have been researched. So the numbers aren't huge, but they were very targeted views, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So I think it's sometimes important to think, target over quantity, quality over quantity. Again, another great example of live streaming. I don't know if anyone saw the Google Glasses stream about 6 months ago. There's a video of it here, obviously not live anymore. They had developed a pair of spectacles with a camera. Excellent. Great. Let's see if this will work. No, of course not. Great. Well, that was working earlier. Google developed a pair of spectacles with a web camera in the frame and an internet connection. They had a team of about 10 skydivers. They chucked them out of the plane, and they streamed live using Google Hangouts. Pretty cool use of technology. Again, it'd be great if I could show you, but I'll get back to that. Bear with us. So here's one of our lovely skydivers. I think it's important to think about why you're streaming. I think live streaming can be a bit of a buzzword, much like some of the social media platforms, and I think it's important to look at why you're looking to live stream. It needs a lot of careful thought and planning. We've heard from the guys at Picture House of some of the problems they've encountered streaming. There's all sorts of things to consider. Apart from most things, does your audience want and or need it? So I think there's kind of three main reasons to stream, exclusivity being one of them, overwhelming interest, and some element of interactivity. Exclusivity is because I guess you've got something there that no one else does, and there's an excitement around it. Being the first to see it is really important. I think a perfect example of this is kind of anything that Apple does, any of their product launches and announcements. Huge following. People want to see it before their friends and be able to talk about it down the pub before anyone else knows about it. An overwhelming interest. Again, similar, even without exclusivity, people want to see what you're doing because it's so large and diverse. They want to see it perhaps different angles or different points of view than perhaps the traditional broadcast networks. Perfect example of this is film premieres and sort of red carpet events where you may have the likes of Sky and the BBC doing their sort of piece to camera, but there's countless online outlets now that get that content out really quickly, often live, and a bit of an edgier feel, which I think people are keen on. And finally, the interactivity, again, giving your audience an option to interact with the event. Again, Picture House guys mentioned earlier, it's all good showing a Coldplay concert a month afterwards, but people want to be there and they want to feel part of it and want to feel like they're involved in it somehow. We streamed an event for the South Bank Centre back in March. They had spent a lot of time beforehand contacting their mailing list, target audience, to get questions for different speakers throughout the weekend's event. Again, this is this question of staffing and resources of how you manage that. They had a social media team pull in a lot of questions, fed those through into the stream, and there was an element of Joe from Brighton asking this question and bringing that thing there. But again, a really important thing to think about is your resources and how you can cover that. So, what's going on here? So we've got the kind of formula. We know we want to stream it, and I think there's 4 kind of main questions to think about before you plow ahead with streaming. One of them being, do you have any technical expertise in-house? There are all sorts of things to consider when streaming. One of them being internet speed. Can someone check your internet speed? I'm sort of talking, I don't want to use the term bottom end, without going into the realms of satellite trucks. How you could do this from your office, from your venue, from your site is traditionally using a broadband network. So having someone internally to kind of check that and manage that side of things, little things like setting up a microsite or specific page on your website to host that stream, and making it easy to find. Where are we here? Do you have the capability to market the stream? I think it's all well and good saying, we're going to host a live Q&A with somebody, but if people don't know about it, they're not going to find it. Do you have someone who can manage it pre-event right up until the point of going live? If you're looking at the interactivity side of things, is there someone to manage that Twitter feed, Facebook group, email list, however you're going to manage that? And again, what does success look like for your live stream? I mentioned earlier about the Sony football there. Are you trying to get 1 million people to come and look at your show? Do you just want 10? Just be quite clear about your objectives before starting the process. And finally, what you're going to do with this content post-event. Traditionally, the sort of way we go about streaming, which we'll cover a bit later, is whilst filming the streaming event, we're recording that content. So that content is stored and archived, and it's great to have a plan. So often we'll film the event, we have sort of 4 hours of footage, and then the client kind of looks at it and goes, right, what do we do? It's important to, I think, feed through from the beginning right to the end what's going to happen with that content. You can see it live here. It will also be post-event here, just making quite a clear kind of, almost a sort of programming schedule. So I think the most important part of streaming is promoting your event. I think it's absolutely vital for the success. I think as well as just sort of shouting the fact that you are going to have a live event, it's pointing people directly to the page it will be at. For example, lighthouse.livestream.com, and come here to check out the stream. Rather than just a Lighthouse site, you could then be looking around trying to find this site, and people have very short attention spans. I think it's important, again, to really plan this activity weeks before the event with regular updates, reminders, tweets, Facebooks, mail-outs, all your social channels, a day of the event and right up to the event as well. Going live in half an hour, going live in 5 minutes, pictures, that sort of thing. Just really hyping the event to keep people interested. I think there's a certain element of people stumbling across it, but I think we want to make it as easy as possible for people to find your stream. It's Brighton in the summer. That was a while ago. I think it's important, again, to look at your timing of your live stream. I think it's unlikely to say people will sit around at lunchtime on a day like this and sit around your computer to watch the latest anything. Weather is quite an important thing, as well as certain events, times of year. I mentioned a South Bank event we covered earlier in the year. It was back in March. It was extremely hot, and Friday evening's views were great. Saturday and Sunday dropped right off, but then the post-event videos that we put out were a massive success. People just weren't around, so you could argue that they wasted some money managing that streaming process during a hot weekend. Conversely, we covered a fashion award ceremony for Elle magazine. It was on a Tuesday around 8:30, kind of prime time viewing, with the excellent timing and their amazing promotional marketing efforts. That was a massive success. So we're going to go into a bit more detail than this rather homemade slide I put together, but a bit later we can talk with my technical team about exactly what it's going into, but I thought, for those who don't know, just to give you a really kind of rough what's involved. The basic ingredients, if you like, your subject, in this case, the president, a video camera, a computer with a fast internet connection, and your audience. Bear in mind that this whole process is scalable. You know, you can scale up those cameras to 17 live streaming cameras. You can run this out of triple redundant computers. You can have satellite trucks, completely scalable. Or scale it right back down and run it out of your onboard sort of web camera on your laptop. As I said, this setup we're going to talk you through a bit later is really based on a sort of broadband connection, and you can go right up through the realms of satellite trucks and bespoke satellite space. I think once you've got all this stuff, it's all about testing. You know, you are going live, anything can happen. You really want to test for every possible scenario. First thing first, you know, talking through our kind of process. We would conduct a recce of the location, so checking out where we'd be streaming from, testing that internet speed, making sure that's up to par, looking at solutions if it isn't. For anything on large scale, we usually try and run a sort of run-through, you know, a bit like a wedding plan. You know, you have a dry run, just make sure everyone knows their timings, where they're going to be, how the cameras are going to affect things, lighting, etc. Ensuring your AVE and technical teams are in touch with the production team early on to just address any kind of technical hitches, any problem areas, that sort of thing. Again, something we had to use a few times working for the Fashion Awards is, you are live, anything can happen. It's probably a good idea to produce some sort of holding screen or a graphic, just in case of streakers, swearing, and that sort of thing. So yeah, again, I mean, this is really the most important part, is just testing everything. Again, we're coming at this from a easy as possible scenario, so looking at the kind of off-the-shelf solutions that are out there. There's tons of them. We tend to use some of these more than others, Livestream in particular. Google Plus have launched a product recently called Google Hangouts, which sounds like maybe something you guys used for your LCD sound system. It's a great platform. It's still relatively new. I think you can have 9 feeds in at once. You can have people connecting around. There's some limitations there, but a great tool. Obviously, you've got Skype there. YouTube Live, which have done a lot of stuff with music events. They just did Rihanna's tour, if anyone's into Rihanna. And a big festival last year, Coachella in California, where they had, you could choose which cameras you wanted to watch around the stage, interacting with the band and that sort of thing. So again, tons of different platforms. It's looking what's right for you, or even looking at something bespoke if you're going to be doing something much more like perhaps the Picture House. So yeah, really a summary, I suppose. It's looking at the sort of golden rules. Why are we streaming it? Who are we streaming to? And what are our objectives out of it? I think it's important to factor in, why you're doing it, to justify it down the line. Planning it. Do we have the resources to set up, promote it, and run it? And finally, the testing side of things, just making sure that every possible eventuality has been planned for and tested to prevent any headaches when we actually go live. That's it from me. What we're going to do, I think, is take a bit of a break. And I've got a few of my tech guys next door setting up a nice hands-on demonstration where we can talk you through a few different styles of streaming from your computer up to a kind of 2-camera shoot with lighting and sound, etc. So thank you very much.